Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Respawn Radio with Paul.
Raphi, are we carrying that on then, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to say every time.
Fair enough, let's...
It just reminds me of the Ricky Gervais podcast. It has that, oomph to get you going.
It also reminds me of your name.
And yours. And it reminds the audience of that too.
All round, good idea. Let's carry on.
Let's begin. Oh, fuck me, I'm already out of breath. I should not have run here.
Can't believe you got the train late. I can't believe you missed like 4 stops just to be here.
Hey, if there's anything I am, it's professional and punctual. I wasn't an hour late today. I was an hour late today.
You were an hour late today.
That was a filthy lie.
Yeah, it was a horrible lie, you dirty bastard.
Today we're going to be talking about the 2006 to 2007 anime series Death Note. It's something that both me and Raph are familiar with. It's one that I watched when I was in sort of edging on the end of school, going into college. And I knew you were into it because I saw your little pop vinyl figure of Ryuk, the Shinigami.
Yeah, I've got loads of pop vinyls, but no, it was one of the first animes that I must have watched.
Yeah?
I think it's got to be there with like Bleach, Naruto.
What about Full Metal Alchemist?
Oh, I love Full Metal Alchemist.
See, those are all the ones I used to watch as well. We were both a couple of weebs in school.
We were back in like 2004 onwards, pretty much. Yeah, Death Note is probably one of the best, if not the best anime you can watch. It's completely just... I remember watching it the first time I ever watched it, and I was so hooked. The entire premise of it, just in case nobody's watched it.
Yeah, we should probably clear that up, like what it's about in general.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, by the way, first of all, why are you watching this episode? That's completely stupid.
Unlike the Iron Man episode where we said it's 10 years old, it's your own fault. This show is also over 10 years old, but it's one that we would recommend watching.
Yeah.
There's going to be a couple of different versions of Death Note and the live actions that we're going to cover over this podcast, but this is the original, the one that we actually like, and it's definitely worth watching if you've not seen it. So if you have no intention of watching it, just carry on listening, but if you don't want to, because we are going to spoil the fuck out of the show.
Yeah, and it's unlike Iron Man. I mean, I don't want to say it's good, but like the plot matters, and I can imagine a lot less people have watched Death Note than have watched Iron Man, because although anime has become more mainstream, it's not as mainstream as the Marvel Cinematic Universe where everyone and their grandma has seen it. So the Death Note is a book. It's like is essentially a Death Note.
A notebook.
It's a notebook. You write somebody's name in it, and you have the image of that person in your head, and then that person dies. Yeah,
so it's a book that's it's got magical properties. It's been sort of dropped by a god of death from another sort of dimension, really, like a god of death realm, and they all have their own little notebooks. And like Raph said, you write someone's name in it while thinking of their face, and they die. That way, you have to think of their face. That way, someone who has the same name doesn't die.
Yeah.
But there's one god of death in particular called Ryuk, who's the one you have the little figure of. And what does he do?
Well, he's all in it just to have fun. He gets bored quite easily. He's a bit like me in that respect.
He's got ADHD though.
He's got ADHD. He decides to, and I do this in quotation marks, drop his Death Note and kind of misplace it in the human world. Mm-hmm. And the person that picks up is sort of the protagonist of the story.
Yeah, and it is the guy who picks it up is a guy called Light Yagami.
He finds this Death Note, and he's meant to be this incredibly bright kid who's a bit stilted with how the law doesn't really work and criminals get left off the hook. And I believe his mother's died.
Oh, no, though that's the shitty live action one. You're getting it mixed up with. No, his dad is a policeman.
I know his dad's a policeman.
And he
has a sister
who's not really important. Really, she comes into it later on, but she's like she's like a cudgel for the story to just collapse on at one point. Yeah. He's basically the smartest kid in the country. He's like absolute super genius, and he's so good at life. He's a handsome person. He's basically bored because everything is going so well for him.
Yeah, he's athletic. He's going to the college that he wants to. Everything is going well for him.
So he finds his notebook and he basically just morbid curiosity first. He tries it on a criminal who's basically holding a bunch of people hostage.
Yeah, he was going to try it on like the high school bully, but then he thought he can't realistically.
probably shouldn't kill people I know is what he said. Yeah,
he can't kill people he knows, and he was like he hasn't really done anything to deserve dying, so I won't try it on him. So he tries it on somebody who's literally about to rape a girl, and this is all in the first episode.
No, that's the second person.
No, who's the first person?
First person is the one he sees on telly. They're holding a bunch of people hostage, and he doesn't see him die though. He just writes the name and he's like, oh, I guess it doesn't work. And then all the people start running out of the building. And he goes, right, well, I've got to try this again just to be sure.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's when he kills the rapist.
And then basically crashes his bike and just causes a whole mess up.
Smashes his rear ends. No, he doesn't rear end it. I think the truck just full on crashes into the side of his bike. And
he full on like decapitates his entire body into many parts.
Decapitates his entire body? Yeah. That is a sentence you just said.
He becomes from like sort of hard spaghetti to soft boiled spaghetti that's in all
instantaneously jellified. One thing that's probably worth covering, though, we actually haven't talked about, is that the notebook has some rules. So it's not just a matter of you write in someone's name and they die randomly. You can write specifications on how they die. You can control their actions for a certain amount of time before they die.
I believe it's like...
you can control them for a few days, I think.
I think it's 3 days.
No.
Or something like that.
No, it's like 20...
Is it a week?
I think it's like 20-something days. You can control them. You have to write their name, but you have to write the details of their death within the next 6 minutes and 40 seconds. But if you just write their name with no description on how they die, by default, after 40 seconds, they'll die of a heart attack.
Good way to die, to be fair.
Yeah, lovely. Just absolutely painless.
But you can... I wonder if you can use it to extend someone's life. So someone who's about to die and they're like, this guy is about to bleed out, but then all of a sudden a man appears.
You know what? That's a good... I don't think I've ever heard anyone come up with that theory, but potentially...
Another aspect that comes in later is the fact that these death gods, like Ryuk, can see like a counter above somebody's head that's ticking down to their death.
So the gods of death can see people's names and lifespans above their head. That way that they never need to worry about not knowing what a person's name is. Gods of death can kill anybody. When a god of death kills a human, the remaining lifespan above their head goes on to their life.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that's so basically...
Why don't they commit genocide and just kill everyone?
Basically, Ryuk is explaining this to Light, and he says, Shinigami will just laugh at you for working too hard if you just go off killing loads of people left and right.
So the entire race of the Shinigami are just lazy.
Well, they're a bunch of pussies is what they are. They're all scared of dying. That's the only reason they bother writing people's names in anymore. They can't see other Shinigami's lifespans, but they can see humans' lifespans. And something that comes in later on in the story is the ability to give that power to a human. So a Shinigami, which is, I think I've said like this a billion times, like you know what it means. Shinigami is basically means god of death in Japanese.
It's the Japanese Grim Reaper, essentially.
Yeah, but they call them Shinigamis in the show just because if they say god of death over and over again, it gets a bit monotonous.
Yeah, but okay, so the Shinigami works for them, but...
They give them the eyes of the Shinigami for half of their remaining lifespan.
Yeah, and then in return they can see people's names.
And lifespans, but it's written in Shinigami time, so they wouldn't be able to tell.
Really, yeah, it's just like a random like hieroglyphics just sort of counting down, and it makes it a mess.
Anyway, this is like a 101 on what Death Note is. Just to get sort of people up to speed. If I know it's been a while since you've probably watched it. I literally just binge watched it in the last few days, so it's all fresh on my mind. So the first thing Light does when he gets the notebook is, like you said, he kills a couple of criminals, and then he sort of gets a god complex and is just like, you know what, I'm going to clear up this whole world of criminals, and what I'm going to do is deliberately let them die of heart attacks as sort of like by means of a calling card. And then people will start to realise this is being done by a person, and that's what he wants. In a way, sort of anonymous notoriety.
Yeah.
And
in reality, though, he doesn't really care. Like, he wants his final vision to be complete.
Yeah.
He's not doing it for any sort of praise. He will never say, like, this is me, I'm the one who's doing it.
Yeah, he doesn't want people to know it's him, but he wants people to know it's...
something.
It's someone, which is, I think, like a whole cult grows behind him. And they nickname him Kira.
Which in Japan means...
Well, it's basically based off of the English word killer. But because Japanese have their L's and R's...
It's Kira, yeah.
It's like Kira.
I mean, I know we weren't going to do this, but that is a lot better than the live-action Netflix one, how he chose the name Kira.
Right, well, we'll get onto that. But basically, there's, like we said before, there's many live-action versions of Death Note, and each one just gets worse and worse.
It's like there's a competition to see who can make the worst one.
So this is probably going to end up being like the first of like a little mini-series in terms of Death Note. I can think of at least 5 podcasts we need to do to cover them all. But, they do just get worse and worse. And the final one was the recent Netflix Death Note, the American version, the first one that's not Japanese live action. Not to go too much into it, but when that Netflix movie started, it came out of a little thing that a lot of Netflix movies do, and it says a Netflix original movie, and I was just thinking, you fucking bastards. This is the last thing that it is, not original at all.
Yeah, you are just derivative as derivative can be. I think what they mean is, though, that a Netflix original is something that they funded themselves.
Yeah, I know that's what it meant, but it just, when it came up, I was thinking, you fucking, like, taking the credit for the concept.
You've taken something we've all loved and said it was your own, and you turned it to shit, you bastards.
Okay, so...
Interestingly, in America, when the anime came out, it was very, very big over there, and a lot of students got into trouble because they had their own Death Note, and they'd write names of their sort of classmates in this book.
What, in real life? Like,
yeah.
Obviously people wouldn't die.
No, God, no. But
it sort of showed that they were a bit psychopathic.
And, I mean, with what's been happening recently in America, live like a school shooting every 28 seconds.
Well, that's not funny. I don't know why I laughed.
Yeah, it's really not.
Go on.
They got into serious trouble because they saw it as a threat to, the other school children, because it was basically a kid saying, I want to kill these people.
It was like a little mini manifesto saying, I wish these people were dead.
Essentially, yeah. It was writing a diary saying, I want these people to die, like a kill list. Obviously, it wasn't going to go anywhere, but that's just something that happened.
Is it important that Ryuk is addicted to apples? Is that just...
I think that's just a character trait he has. It's why he likes to come to Earth to have his apples.
Yeah.
It's why because... Death gods don't, or Shinigami, whatever you want to call them, don't go to Earth just to go to Earth. I mean, I think Ryuk's literally like the only one that does it. Yeah. Because they can see humans from their world. Because when Ryuk goes to Earth, I think the other Shinigami are watching him to like some sort of portal.
I think they go into it a little bit. I think there was this one conversation between Shinigami sort of later on in the series where they said there's a lot of Shinigami watching the human world recently. And I think you're right. I think that's because they were all watching what Ryuk's up to and stuff.
Because he is the outsider where he doesn't like to do work, but he also likes to have a lot of fun. The other Shinigami just seem to like just to lounge around all day.
So what do you think between Light and Ryuk's sort of relationship? Like, if you were a guy, you found a notebook and some giant fucking 8-foot looking god of death just hovering around you all the time, I think you'd be a little bit scared.
I mean, I think he was scared. I think Light, at least initially, would be scared, but he kind of latched onto the idea quite quickly because he realised what he had. Now, interestingly, Ryuk never actually helps Light at all. He does explain what the Death Note is, and he does give a lot of like what he is and what his history is, and gives a lot of exposition essentially.
Yeah, obviously that's all they can do really. There's not much in terms of action in this. There's a lot of talking, but it really at its heart is a detective story.
It's a cat and mouse. So on the other side of Light, once he gets this Death Note and he starts killing people, the media goes into a bit of a frenzy because obviously you can't really say somebody's doing all this with a heart attack, because how would you possibly...
Well, that's where sort of L comes into it, doesn't it? Because in the second episode, the second main character, well, I mean, or you can say third if you're counting Ryuk as a main character, but you got Ryuk, the god of death. You got Light Yagami, the main, I don't want to say protagonist, more like an anti-hero.
He's still a protagonist.
Yeah, well, he's evil piece of shit is what he is.
He's an evil piece of shit, but he's the protagonist. He is an anti-hero through and through. It's like the antagonist is the antithesis of the protagonist, which is L, but L's the good guy in this.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah. Like they play it from the perspective of the bad guy, so in a way you sort of sympathise with him.
But also at the same time you can understand what he's doing. All he's doing is killing criminals.
You also hate his guts. You just want him to just fucking die at every turn. You just kind of want him to get caught.
I don't think so. I really latched onto L. I really want him to get...
I'm talking about Light, sorry.
No, sorry, I meant Light.
Okay.
I was just thinking of like his L. No, I really like Light. I really, really like Light.
See, my sister said the same thing, and I never understood that. I always couldn't stand him. I couldn't really stand the voice actor either. I watch it.
I love the voice actor.
I watch it in English.
You know who the voice actor is? He was basically... Did you ever watch X-Men Evolution as a kid? You must have done.
It rings a bell.
Yeah, it's basically... So you had the original X-Men cartoon in the 90s, and it had that awesome sort of theme tune music. And then they did X-Men Evolution, where it was basically they were all in school. Anyway, this character played Nightcrawler. You
mean the voice actor played the character Nightcrawler?
Yeah, the voice actor played Nightcrawler. But because I love Nightcrawler just as a character, but because I also really like that TV show, I kind of latched onto the fact that it was Light.
Right. Okay. So hang on. So I mean, I've just got this up here. I couldn't remember what his name is. His name is Brad Swale. Is the one who does Light's voice. Yep. So when you listen to him now, is he Light to you, or is he Nightcrawler?
He'd be Light because I've not watched X-Men Evolution since I was a kid.
It's like with Johnny Young Bosch, who plays as Ichigo in Bleach.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm watching Naruto or something and he's doing a bit part, it always stands out to me because he's got such a noticeable voice.
His voice is so... I can pick him out in it. He was Nero in Devil May Cry. Yeah. He was in Bleach.
He was Firion, the main character from Final Fantasy 2 in Dissidia. Final Fantasy.
He's been in a lot.
Oh, are we talking about Johnny Young Bosch? He's not even in Death Note.
No, he isn't. He could be, but maybe...
I tell you what, the guy who does the English voice of L, Alessandro Giuliani, I was like, I could have sworn I recognise his voice somewhere, but you know who he does the voice of Vakama from Bionicle Legends of Metro Nui?
You know, I haven't seen that. I have no idea what it is.
Are you kidding? You weren't a Bionicle fan when you were a kid?
Didn't watch it, no.
Oh man, but you had Bionicle.
Yeah, I had the toys, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Right.
He was the main red one.
Right, okay.
He did it in an English accent, and he sounds eerily similar to what's his name? Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels. What's his?
Hugh McGregor.
Yeah, he sounds eerily similar as Vakama to Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's really weird. But anyway, in American accent, he's L, and he's probably one of the best performances in this show.
They're all fantastic, to be fair. L's brilliant. I fucking love L.
I don't know. I feel like a lot more voice actors could make more effort. I think he like won an award or nearly won an award or something for like just such good performance.
Sure. I mean, he was really good in it. So there is this character called L, and he's a detective, and he's meant to be like Light is like the smartest child on the planet.
Child.
L's like the smartest person ever. He's basically like Sherlock on like steroids.
Yeah, he's like Sherlock if he were Japanese and had the financial backing of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, which basically imagine Sherlock and Batman had a kid.
And he grew up in the X-Men mansion of a house for gifted children. Yeah. They kind of get a little bit of ideas from everywhere, really.
They really did for this one character, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so no one has any idea what's going on with why all these people are dying and why they're getting heart attacks. And then Al comes in and he's like, no, someone's doing it. Like, this isn't a coincidence. I'd say one heart attack, yeah, but, loads of...
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember how he figures it out?
Yeah, so initially he has the idea because somebody died, which turns out to be the first criminal of a heart attack, just randomly in Japan. Was it Tokyo where they were at?
Okay, so the first one who died was in Kanto. Right. So what happened? Well, basically, he figures that the killer is a student.
Based off the fact that the killings are...
Yeah, he kills so methodically and consistently that literally over weeks and weeks, he can see a pattern that the free time and whatnot and the time he's killing, which is pretty constant, sort of looks like a schedule for a school.
But what he does, and it's probably one of the smartest things I've ever seen any TV show do, is he puts out a broadcast and he gets this guy to go on TV to make this big announcement.
Mm-hmm. And a stand-in who's saying, "Oh, I'm L."
Yeah, and he's basically, "I am L. I know who you are. Blah blah blah. I'm going to find you." And he has his name underneath it. Obviously, it's like, "Fuck, I'm going to kill him then." So he kills him.
Fucking goes mental. Just scribbles it right across the book,
like full on anime style, like fighting. And
show him.
Yeah, he scribbles his name, and the guy dies. And then, but it turned out it was just a decoy. It was just a murderer who was on death row that he got to do a stand-in for.
Yeah, who had a name that was eerily sort of would have matched.
Yeah, but what he did was he had set that up in only just like a certain region, which in this case was
that's right, yeah,
where Kira was.
He was like, "Oh, I actually lied. This isn't a worldwide broadcast. It's just here." And I was planning on doing it all over the world until we found you, but luckily it just happened to be in the first place we did it.
So he actually got blind luck with getting him on the first try, which is fair enough. I mean, he kind of lost, like you said, he kind of worked out that maybe that first killing was also connected. So that's the first time where we see Light sort of backed into a corner, and then from then on it's just each of them backing themselves into a corner because Light then starts to get the upper hand and L starts to get the upper, and it's just one of the most ultimate in cat and mouse games you can get for a TV show, or film or any media. I was just constantly on the edge of my seat with what is going to happen next. oh my god, that is so smart. Like, I don't want to spoil too much.
Well, yeah.
For the people that haven't seen it and may be still listening to this.
Well, we already said that we were going to spoilers, and we've already gone into way more spoilers than anyone who doesn't want it spoiled would care to hear. But we're just gonna, we're already one leg in. We might as well just. So basically, they keep egging each other on until they literally get to the point where they meet each other, but there's no proof that either of them are who they are either way. So Elle basically is, like we mentioned before, I said before that Light's dad is a cop, and a lot of the policemen at the time were just like, look, we got our names and faces out in the public, anyone can see who we are. Kira's not opposed to killing people that come after him, so we're off. And it sort of ends up leaving like just five people left, and those people, like Elle's like, well, you guys give a shit enough, I'm going to let you work with me. So they have a little team called, I think we'll just refer to it as the Task Force, because that's what they call it. So we got Elle, we got Watery, obviously we've got Sorichio Yagami, the Kira's dad. There's a guy called Aizawa, who's got afro, he's a little bit of a hothead. There's Mogi, the big dude, he doesn't say much, a bit quiet. And then you've got Matsuda, who's the fucking idiot comedy relief, sort of the youngest one.
Yeah, the one they obligatory have to put in as a comic relief character.
It seems like a lot of detail, but I'm purposefully mentioning these characters by name because you'll go further throughout this series and you'll see us talking about them in the live action versions and their interpretations of them, and it's important I get it out of the way now. So basically there's only really those six, but there's another one called Ukita. No one cares about him because he dies like in episode 12 or something. But the next sort of important bit that happens in the story is that Light realizes he's got a stalker, he's got a follower, an FBI agent. So he comes up with this big elaborate plan to get his name and get him in, like, by using the Death Note's rules of controlling people before they die, getting him to sort of contact his boss and have his boss email him with the names of the other agents. And he sort of blackmails him that I'm going to kill your wife if you don't write the names in these little slots. And he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's actually writing names of these people on the Death Note and killing them for him. So there's lots of little plans that Light comes up with that just sort of show his intelligence and how much he thinks about these things.
He's a perfect example of a character who is not outspokenly said is smart, but actually is shown to be smart, because it's very easy to say you are the smartest person, your grade is fantastic. It's another thing to actually go, right, let's actually show him do something that is clever, that is incredibly smart, and both of them really come off as being able to do that, like something like that where he does basically get someone to do his job for him.
No, there's whole like chunks of that where, like, well, first of all, the agent that he kills or gets to kill everyone else, or the other agents, has a fiance, and she's an ex-agent, and she figures out that due to this, everything that's happened and the fact that at some point Light has met him and been in a situation where he's been forced to expose his ID, and that's how he got his name to begin with. She realizes that heart attacks aren't the only way he can kill people, and Elle hadn't worked that out yet. So more and more, everything he does, he kind of puts his foot in it. He kind of makes himself a bigger target. So every time he thinks, like, right, if I cleared that up, he sort of leaves more breadcrumbs.
Yeah, it would work if the other characters weren't also just as smart as he was. I actually think he would have gone away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids.
I'll tell you what, though, when he gets the name from that woman, that is like level 100 Skyrim speechcraft. I don't know, like...
What did he do?
He just sort of convinces her to give up the real name after she has already given him a fake name. It's just his whole use of manipulation and like verbal, mindfuckery that he does. It's absolutely unreal. And the fact that it translates from Japanese to English so well is partially, but obviously the translation team and the voice actors. But it's one of my favourite animes to watch in English.
And all the way through it, the standout has got to be Ryuk, just munching on apples all the way through it. Just full on, just like, as long as he's eating an apple, as long as he's got them, those apples will look fucking delicious.
And they are pretty juicy.
I don't know how they managed to make them look like that. But
I love the fact that he actually has... he's actually addicted to them. He says apples are addictive to me in the same way that alcohol and cigarettes are to humans. So he'll get physical withdrawal symptoms if he doesn't get his fix of apples. So
when it says like an apple a day will keep the doctor, that is literal for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, so
gets all contorted and twisted and stresses out.
But all the way through it, obviously Ryuk's not really the focal point that much, but he actually is. And Ryuk makes it abundantly clear that he has no side in this. He is literally a spectator. That he said he likes Light. He says he's got nothing against Light, and he likes.
Well, he thinks he's fun.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have just killed him.
Oh,
straight
exactly.
Away and found someone else.
He was so. He said he never knew it was going to be Light that was going to pick up the Death Note. He kind of just got lucky in that, and he's happy it was him.
He's not as much as a puppet master as just the catalyst. But he's the one who provided the means for Light to carry out his crazy plans. But Ryuk doesn't interfere.
He basically pressed play and just watched it play out.
Yes,
and he will offer up his advice, like he does offer Light his Shimigami eyes.
Well, yeah, he does that because he thinks it'll make it more fun for him personally. Well, there is one bit where he tells him that the FBI agent's following him, but the only reason he does that is because he goes, personally, it's creeping me out. I know he can't see me because I'm always with you. It feels like he's staring at me.
Yeah, so he did that of his own game because it just annoyed the hell out of him, which is fair enough. Ryuk is on his own side. Like I said, he does offer him his eyes as well. And like you said, because he gets like half of his life cut in half, he doesn't go for it because then we would never be able to see his like. He
wouldn't be able to see his. Yeah, no, Light is basically he's not that desperate. He knows he's smart. He thinks, you know what? If I just play my cards right, eventually I'll get L's name. I don't need to give up half my fucking life. That's ridiculous. You think about it. You got 50 years left. That's 25. 25 years to just no. There's no way he's going to do it. He said, you know, if it would have extended my life, I might have done it. But
no, he goes, if he gave me wings, I'd do it.
Yeah, but I think he says that as a joke.
He does. That goes over Ryuk's head because he doesn't get like sarcasm or humor or anything.
Let's talk about L a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think he's meant to be like 20, like he's meant to be 25 years old, and Light's meant to be like 17 or something. He's just gotten out of school. He is a
good tennis player.
He's a good tennis player, and you see that when he actually meets Light, he sort of stalks him to school to keep an eye on him, and he actually confronts him in person.
Without him knowing who he is.
Yeah, he sort of it's quite a clever plan in a way. I mean, L is a detective who has solved thousands of cases throughout his life and never once needed to go out on the field. He's never shown his face, he's never shown his name, which is why he's the perfect person to catch Kira, because that's exactly what he needs to kill him.
A name and a face. So
he realizes, well, you know what? If I'm working with an investigation team and I say I'm investigating, Shuichi Oyagami, his dad, if I say, look, I'm investigating your son, I'm going to confront him and tell him I'm L. And if he kills him, that's basically like announcing to him that he's Kira. So he goes up to him and he says, I'm L. And Light is like has absolutely no way of like confirming that either way. So it's like the perfect bulletproof plan because he can confront him and say, I'm L. But he, if it were like a stand-in and he killed him, that would be like telling the real L that he was Kira. Yeah. So it's.
But it's also the fact that L's obviously not his real name. He doesn't give him his real name.
L is his real name.
No, it's not. L's his fake name.
No, it's not.
No, because he gets his real name later.
Uh-huh. Do you know... Right.
L, the actual L, letter L's not his real name.
Google it.
I will.
His name is... Do you want me to say what his name is?
Go on, go for it.
His name is L. Lauliette.
True name. L Lauliette. He can't do anything with L.
L is his first name.
Yeah, but he needs a full name, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, right. So L's real name is L, but obviously you can't kill someone with just a first name anyway. But I mean, I'm assuming that Light assumes that L is short for something else anyway. So it's quite funny, really. Yeah. It's kind of like mocking him, really. It's just like, oh, I'm L, I'm hidden in secret, so much so that I only give you the first letter of my name, which actually is the whole first name.
His parents must hate him.
Well, he grew up in an orphanage, so probably.
Yeah, probably
really hated him.
Yeah, really, to the point where, it's like, you don't even want you damn bastard.
But, like, if you compare him to the, Sherlock from the BBC, how similar would you say he is to, Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock? Because he's not social, really. Not that, Sherlock is as much as social. He's more of a sociopath. But L is like, he's this long-haired, baggy-eyed, skinny guy who never puts on any weight because he's constantly eating sweets and sweet stuff.
Yeah, that's all he eats. His teeth must be shit.
Teeth must be shit, but he never puts... I think he has the line where he says something like...
he doesn't like wearing shoes either.
He doesn't like wearing shoes. He doesn't like sitting normally. He says that he never puts on weight because he's constantly burning calories by using his brain. And he never sits normally because he says that if I were to put my legs down rather than have them right up against my chest, I would lose about 40% of my deductive reasoning abilities. I mean, is that just bad writing, or is that like is he being funny, or is that?
I think he's being funny. I think he's got some quirks about him that
he's quite deadpan.
Yeah. I think that he knows he's not being. I mean, if we're going to say his character was a real person, he knows that's not going to be accurate. I think it's just what he does to keep everyone off their toes. Because if you look at him, he's the least threatening person you'll ever meet.
Although he knows he knows a few martial arts, doesn't he?
He does. He can play tennis really well.
Well, he kicks Light right in the face. And he is good at tennis. It's funny during that tennis game, like they sort of explain, like they're both. It's funny because they both are absolute geniuses in their field. Like even when it comes to physical stuff, like Light is like the #1 ranked tennis player of his like year or something before he quit. When he was like 14 years old, he was like a really good tennis player.
He's basically just the MacGuffin of everything.
We'll sort of skip ahead of it because there's 37 episodes in this show, and the one thing I like about this anime is that they don't waste any time. With a lot of animes, there'll be filler episodes and they fucking waste your life. But each episode is important, and you can't skip an episode really.
Say that you get about halfway through and then it becomes a bit pointless.
You know who we haven't even talked about yet?
Who?
Misa
the
Imane.
stalker.
The blonde girl.
Yeah, the stalker. Yeah.
Well, she kind of starts off as a stalker, doesn't she?
She's a stalker all the way through. She is like the very typical sort of Japanese anime sort of written girl of someone who's she's meant to be someone who she's famous, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a pop icon, airhead
who basically she's obsessed with Kira. She believes everything he's doing is correct
because he killed the guy who murdered her family. So she's like sort of like infatuated with him. There's a Shinigami backstory. If a Shinigami does something to deliberately delay the death of a human, they'll die.
The Shinigami will.
Yeah, the Shinigami will die. They're not supposed to do anything to hinder deaths. They're supposed to only cause them or accelerate them, not stop them. So there's a Shinigami who's absolutely obsessed with Misa, and he knew that she was going to die because of the lifespan, and he basically kills the person who was about to kill her. You know how we mentioned before that if a Shinigami kills a person, they take all their lives. Well, if a human kills another human, they don't get their lives. That only works for Shinigami. But if a Shinigami saves a person from death, the Shinigami will not only die, but all of their remaining years will go to that human.
Right.
So Misa's got like an incredibly like unnaturally long lifespan. Like it doesn't ever tell you, but I think it's like it implies it's like hundreds, thousands of years. So she does the Shinigami ideal because she's got tons of years to spare. And she basically uses those eyes to help Light out.
Yeah.
So she loves him and whatnot. And there's tons of rigmarole where she has to give up ownership and forget her memories and lose the eyes. And then when she gets her memories back, gets the eyes back again. It sort of halves her lives again. There's tons of shit like that. But I mean, is she like? Would you consider her a comedy relief character?
Not a comedy relief character. I think she's just I don't know what she is. She seems not pointless because she does have some important roles. Like
wanting to be like, make me your girlfriend.
Yeah, the whole overly like, I'm so obsessed with you, please.
Overly attached girlfriend.
Yeah, that is it's a bit ridiculous, and it's honestly that's the weaker part of the story. I don't like her character, but she's just so annoying. All the way through it. That's all she is. It's just an annoyance.
That's the whole point. She's meant to be a ditzy fucking hindrance. That's what he hates about her. Well, she's got her own Shinigami called Rem. Yeah. Like you know, Light has Ryuk. She has Rem. The difference between Ryuk and Rem is that Rem actually cares about Misa. So Light's basically just like, right, you know, you can help me out, but if you piss me off or whatever, I'm going to kill you. And Rem steps in and goes, you fucking touch her, I'll kill you. So he's just like, for God's sake, now I've got to keep her around until the day I die. And I think it's because of her that like Elle sort of realizes, because Elle realizes there's a second Kira, and they're, you know, who they choose to kill and their pattern of killing is different.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this new person springs into Light's life, and it's like, oh, convenient timing, really.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, he does use her as a scapegoat quite a few times, actually. He uses her more than, like, he has absolutely no care for this woman at all.
Well, he uses her as a scapegoat right up until the end. Well, what happens is he puts her in a position where she starts killing again after all suspicion has been cleared, and Elle clicks onto that, and that's when, you know, it's decided.
Yeah. I know we said no spoilers, but this will be the ultimate spoiler, and just in case you were ever thinking.
We're constantly warning people, but I think that warning at the beginning should have been enough.
I know, but just in case, think
you still decide
you're still deciding, should I or shouldn't I? And you haven't watched it. This is your final spoiler warning. Okay, right. So, Elle dies.
Elle dies.
He kills. So
about halfway through the show.
About halfway through the show, Elle dies, and Light basically wins. He does. That for me should have been the end of it, because that was such a good.
So you wanted Light to win?
I wanted Light to win simply because it was such an interesting premise. Obviously, Elle was such a good character as well, but it's always a case where the bad guy, in this case, the good guy, loses. So Elle losing and Light actually winning was so interesting, and Elle was such a good character. And then from then on, they bring in this new character called Nia.
Yeah, they bring in two characters who grew up in a mansion that Elle grew up in, who are working towards being selected as his sort of successors. Yeah. But Elle died before he got to choose which one he wanted to take up the mantle.
They both kind of just compete with each other.
Well, more the blonde one, Mello, competing with the white-haired person called Nia.
Yeah,
because Nia is basically exactly the same as Elle, if not a little bit even more reserved.
Yeah.
The only real difference is that he has white hair and likes playing with toys, whereas Elle has black hair and likes eating lots of sweets.
Well, Nia eats a fuck ton of chocolate.
That's Mello, the blonde one. He likes chocolate.
Is it? I thought it was Nia.
No.
Maybe I was wrong. Anyway,
Nia likes playing with toy robots and dice.
I mean, Nia's only looks about 12 in it. He does look like a kid. So.
I think when Elle dies, Nia is probably about 12, 13. I think Mello's like 14, 15, because he says, I'm 15, just before he storms off and gets in with the mafia. And the whole thing that happens with the mafia, that's a whole subplot. Basically, Mello doesn't really give a shit about the Death Note. All he cares about is fucking over Nia, because he wants to prove how much smarter he is than him. So they kidnap Light's sister, because they have access to all this police information. They know who the task force is and whatnot. So they know that Soricho Yagami, Light's dad, has a daughter. He's other than the mum, she's the only family member that's not involved in the investigation. So he kidnaps her, and instead, he says, "I'll kill her," but instead give me the notebook. So he takes a notebook, and do you know what Mello does with it? He kills basically almost all of Nia's SPK, the special provision for Kira's task force. He just fucking murders them. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's just like, I don't even care about catching Kira, really.
Yeah, he's just in it too. He's an actual antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, he is a bad guy. But the problem is that both Nia and him are not as good characters as Elle, sorry. Neither one of them. Nia is basically a lesser well-developed version of Elle.
So when you say not a good character, do you mean just not interesting? Or just not like as smart? Because I think they make a point that they can't do what Elle could do unless they work together, which they do in the end. Mello and Nia end up
they would. No, what I mean is just the fact that I just don't think they're written as well. Like, Elle was such a good character that was written. And then they killed him off, and that was fine.
So there's 37 episodes. Elle dies in episode 25. So, well, it's not half. It's about 2/3 in.
Yeah.
He dies. There isn't as much time to develop them.
But it's not just that. It's the character. I mean, Nia's character is basically Elle. I mean, he is a mini Elle. That's actually what his character is. But it's just, I just thought it was stupid because he just wasn't as interesting as Elle.
He managed to figure things out conveniently quicker as well.
Yeah.
Like, basically what happens is, Light takes up the mantle of Elle after Elle dies, because all the other team members don't know he's Kira. So he's both Elle and Kira. It's perfect. So I think he basically reigns heavy as Kira for a good few years. He gets like everyone in basically the world to sort of come to the terms with the fact that Kira's actually good, and that Kira helps people and protects people. When he doesn't, he basically makes people live in fear.
There is a big thing of it where, I mean, half of it is actually just public opinion of Kira.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that public commentary. And
there were parts where the police force feel like what Kira's doing is correct as well.
Yeah, I think the President of America sort of caves into him as well.
I think we should finally move on to the ending.
Well, yeah, let's skip right to the end, because we've already mentioned Nia and Mello, who basically are the Elle of the third act. There's a couple of other characters. There's like this accountant called Mikami, who is basically Light's doppelganger, but like a puppet version. So he gets him to pretend to be Kira on his behalf while he's being investigated by Nia, so that he looks less suspicious, etc. And they have the big standoff in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And that is 2 fucking tense episodes.
That is really tense. But Light's death, because Light dies.
Ultimately.
Well, ultimately, like...
Of course he had to die.
He gets shot.
No, he doesn't.
He does.
He gets shot, but that's not how he dies.
I'm sure he is screaming.
Ryuk kills him. He writes his name in a death note.
But Light dies, but all the way through that, when he's screaming that when he's dying, he's being a proper bitch about it.
Oh yeah, he lets go. Like this whole show, even from episode 1, he's been holding in the crazy.
Also, like cleverness and all smart that he's got, it's just gone, and he's just grasping at nothing by this point.
So what happens is this whole thing with the notebooks. Basically, Nia has one of his guys create a fake notebook, and they sort of do a switcheroo sort of thing. But Light's like, oh, I knew you were going to do that, so I put a fake in place for you to replace. So basically all you did was fake a fake, and I actually have the real one all along. But what Light didn't realise is that Nia took that one as well. So the whole time in the warehouse, he's been able to see the Shinigami, and he's known, and the accountant guy has written all these names in of all the people in the warehouse, and obviously no one dies, so they grab him, they pick up the book, and they see that the only name that's not there is Light Yagami, and that is basically solid evidence.
Yeah, that and then he gets...
And it was fucked. And that laugh, though, what do you think of the crazy laugh when he finally just...
It was chilling, to be fair, because it was more like, because he was no longer like the calm and collected, smart character that has been going on for the 37 episodes. He just regressed into sort of what the Joker was by that point.
Yeah, he goes full on Joker, Anakin Skywalker, Revenge of the Sith, evil.
Because he sounded like, it's not fair. Like, just go away. It wasn't me. You old bastards. Like,
I wish that is what he said.
I wish it was.
I mean, that is so like... That is such a common version of what he said, though.
It would. I mean, that's essentially...
You're old bastards. If that's what he said, I would fucking not... I'd watch that every day.
I think I would. Imagine just that, like...
If he just said it in a really northern accent.
We've got you, lad. Ah, you fucking cunt. You don't have me.
Yeah.
And he's just...
Oh, you can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. That's it. I'm out of here. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Throws the notebook on the floor. Like chucks the pen at
he has one very last attempt to kill Nia, and he has like this. It happens earlier in the show as well, but he
doesn't go for it though.
He does. He has a secret scrap of the notebook hidden in a watch. And he gets a needle, and he tries right. He's so desperate to get that last kill, and just not give a shit.
He didn't. By the end, he was such a psychopath and a sociopath, and he was so far gone. Like he turned from someone who, at the start of it, he was like, I can't really kill someone I know, and he's not really done anything to worth dying. To
the point that if
just killing anyone that you just wanted.
Policeman, I think he ends up killing. Well, he gets to a point where in like the peak of his rule, he's like, right, well, I'm killing criminals left and right. What I'm actually going to start working on now is killing lazy people that don't contribute to society. Yeah. So he never gets that far, but it's something that they mention. And
he was like where he could go from there, and he was just going to create like a perfect sort of race of people with blonde hair and blue eyes.
I think you're getting your dictators mixed up.
I am, aren't I? But I mean, it's a fantastic show. It is unbelievably brilliant.
Death Note had a very good soundtrack. The soundtrack, I don't know who it's by. I was going to look it up. It's some bloke in Japanese. I think it's done mainly by like 2 different people.
Yeah.
But it just captures sort of the tone of the manga. Because I've actually read the manga. I've got all of... There's 12 issues. Yeah. And I mentioned it before. I kind of went off on a tangent, but I mentioned it before. There's 37 episodes. They don't waste a page. It basically is... They don't take any liberties, really. You read the manga, and it's exactly what happens in the anime.
Is it better?
The way that Light dies is different. It's funny because the death in the live action version is closer to the manga than the anime was. But that's the show, and I'd recommend.
Absolutely, 100% recommend.
I think it's on Netflix, isn't it? Yeah, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. If not, you can probably find it on any.
Yeah, you just pirate it. Somewhere.
Yeah, don't do anything illegal, but just pirate it.
Exactly.
No, it's honestly it's what got me into anime. It's what got my girlfriend into anime. It's what got a lot of people into anime. You start off with that, and it's pretty much downhill from there for anime though, because not a lot actually hits.
Not another good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great anime.
The same people that made Death Note did a 13-episode Devil May Cry series.
That was shit.
Yeah.